Welcome to Flying for Flavor, first weekend of March, and I am medicated.
It's not just the wine this time.
Not just the wine.
Great intro.
Great intro, eh? But the whole gang is here again. My peeps are back together.
Yeah.
So the fact that I'm fighting a head cold. I am very happy. This is the time when I'm very happy that I have my friends here to help fill in, because there'll be times where you're going to hear that I'll be a little silent at times, but that is fine. Excuse me. So let's start out with just general introductions. The whole gang's here again. Anybody want to say hi? Deke?
Yeah, hey guys, this is Deke Zayer here.
Hey there, it's Stacey Fauner here. And Cynthia Lesal-Seguin to round out the team.
Flavor crew. And we are drinking the white port
Cheers.
that everybody
Cheers, guys.
bailed
Cheers, guys.
on me the first time when I got back. So this is not going to be in your show notes. Hate to be a bummer, but this is the white port I brought back, a 2007 Dalva. I brought it back from Portugal. We don't carry it here. It's one of the reasons I wanted it. But I did, in the show notes, list for you 2 great, easy-to-find white ports. So white ports are traditionally served before dinner. So they are fortified wine, meaning that there's additional alcohol to increase the sugar content in a standard wine production. White port would refer to the fact that it's done, of course, with white wine, and you can get them based on either aged in barrels or bottles based on the wine producer's discretion. So sometimes they'll be a little darker than. So it's going to be a little bit sweeter than you might be used to, closer to a sweeter wine, but you can also get some styles that are actually very dry, and it'll actually surprise you. It'll be closer to a standard white wine that you're used to. But if you do find it too sweet, I see a couple of the girls are already started here, you can turn it into a cocktail, so it's a little bit more refreshing, just by adding in some fresh lemon slices and some tonic of your
It is
choice.
really nice.
Yeah, it's nice. Eh? It kind of balances out that sweetness a little bit if you find it too sweet for you. But anyways, it's like, welcome to Portugal. Let's start off with some industry news while I still have a voice. I mentioned, I think, a few weeks ago about how Cara bought the keg, right? Well, through the grapevine, as in employees of some Cara restaurants I was talking to, I believe that Cara is going to be dividing up their restaurants now into 2 different categories. So Milestones, the keg, maybe Beer Market, and maybe one other will be in one division, and they'll be called something else as opposed to just Cara. And then the rest of them, so that would be your Swiss Chalet, whatever, will be in that other division.
I think that just makes a lot more business sense because you've got such a diverse range of products at that point, right? From your fast food, of your KFCs and whatever, all the way up to your keg and Milestones and everything in between. So it definitely makes a lot of sense to have different silos for them.
And I think, I don't know if this is what's going to happen, but I'm also thinking for marketing purposes about how they do the scene points and all these other loyalty programs and other bonuses that they're doing. Every time they buy a new restaurant, like, they have to offer everything. So, I mean, I should have seen the deer in the headlights looks when I told the girls at the keg about how the new scene point system has to work. They're like, oh my God. I said, yeah, nobody told you, eh? Surprise.
It's coming.
So I'm jumping the gun. I'm assuming that if all the other Cara restaurants are doing scene points, I'm assuming that the keg will be on board at some point. But anyways, that was my little behind the scenes knowledge. Wine things. So even when I was sick and medicated, like the trooper that I am, I still went to the Vigna Montez and Kaiken wine tasting dinner in Toronto. So the father and son were both there. And if you saw the pictures on social media, I just showed Deke because he didn't see it. But we were welcome to a table full of wine poured when we first got there. So between that and my Advil, I was a fun chick for the night, that's for sure. But it was held at Modus Restaurant on King West in Toronto. So it was mostly Italian fare, but they did kind of, do braised meats and things that would be closer to what a South American palate would expect with those wines. But anyways, I was pleasantly surprised. So as soon as my cold's gone a little bit, maybe in the next day or two, I'm going to do a whole little blog post about that. So for those of you who like wines from those areas, I will do my 2 cents. And I guess I got to have lots of Purple Angel, but that's just because I was at that dinner and you can't find it anymore. Unless you go to Milestones.
Yes.
Milestones is the only place, and you can buy it by the bottle. It's in Sudbury. I don't know if all the other Milestones, so don't quote me on that. But it is on their other wine list. So when you go to Milestones, and you see the regular bar menu, they always have a list of wines that are on there. Ask them for their other or their premium wine list, and you'll find the Purple Angel on there. So it's not cheap, but for a special dinner, or if you really want to treat yourself to an amazing wine, it was the fastest seller at both the Montreal Wine Show as well as the Toronto one. They were already apologizing; they didn't even have left for samples because the LCBO cleaned them out and their restaurants cleaned them out.
Wow.
So once people fall in love with this version of Carmenere, that's it. It's sold out. And I remember the last time I had it, it was when Prince passed away.
Oh,
Makes
my.
sense.
It was that not
Purple
that
Rain.
I went and got a bottle of Purple Angel and sat at the bar at Milestones.
I think that's where I'm going to go
So-
tonight.
I know.
Yeah. Is that available at the keg too, or no?
No, the keg's still too new. So it's just Milestones, I think, that carries it right now. And I know it's not all the Milestones locations because my brother complains that the Milestones in Ottawa does not have it. So I rub it in every time I order
I've
it.
got a secret about the kegs menu.
Oh, okay,
wanna hear
sure.
it?
Yeah.
If you order what's called the Keg Omega,
There's something called Keg Omega.
the Keg Omega, yeah, it's like it's an extra large prime rib slice. It's 24 ounces. And they need a manager to approve it, so they make like a big deal of it. The waiter or waitress goes to the manager, and they get the nod, and then they bring it on your plate, and it dwarfs like anything else.
24 ounces.
24 ounces, yeah.
Could you split it?
That's like
Alone?
a pound and a half.
Yeah, one time I had 2 of them. Legit.
Yeah.
So for reference purposes, Dick is not like a massive man, but he's a large enough
No,
man. Like
but
he's
this
not a
is-
little tiny guy.
The story behind that was a long time. This is about 2009, where I was big, and it was that night where I ordered the second one. My now ex-wife at the time was like, "Really, do you need that?" And I realized, yeah,
Maybe it was time to like
maybe it
change
was
your
time,
lifestyle.
but I had it anyways.
And it was good.
It was
I still can't even. I mean, I love a good ribeye. You can rarely ever find a ribeye that's like under like 18 to 20 ounces most of the time. So I'm usually like staring at it, going, "Do I not?"
Yeah.
And then I'll always convince myself I'm going to order it and then take home the leftovers. Who am I kidding? So, anyways, I try to stay away from it now.
That's my fun secret.
That is a fun secret.
Thank you.
I want to find out. I'm going to check with people at the keg here and find out if anyone orders the Keg Omega.
Yeah.
There we go.
Ah.
No, I
Maybe
have.
we should do a show from there one night.
We could say like it's a code word.
It's a
The keg would be hilarious. Yeah, I know. I got some contacts there. We could do a show from the keg. That'd be fun from the bar side.
I might be flashbacking to the last time we recorded at the keg right now.
Oh, you know, we deleted the whole thing, but that's
That's
all
okay.
Wine was
Absolutely.
involved. Oh, and then so if you also didn't see on the Facebook page, I posted that crazy BC wine ban in Alberta only lasted 2 weeks.
Yeah, I saw when it came across and I thought of us right away. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
So
there it goes.
Premier Rachel Notley, I guess, must have got her hand slapped, or she got enough business people kind of screaming at her, including the Calgary Flames of all people, because they just finished signing this big contract with one of the BC wineries to be their main wine sponsor for their Scotiabank Center for all the Calgary season.
Oh my god.
So the fact that they had some wine, excuse me,
total oopsie. on
some
their
wine,
part.
yeah. So some wine in stock already. There was no way they were going to have enough for the season, and they just realized that there's a lot of other businesses in Alberta that are basically relying on BC wine and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things that your disputes about oil,
Yeah.
leave the wine out of it.
Yeah.
And it's funny too because I know for BC, it's hard to get some of the BC wines in our areas. I know that we have a couple you can find in vintages and stuff, and I have a favorite which I just not it's blanking me right now that I always get in vintages, but to find it, and they even say you don't get many, and they don't have the many vintage releases at the LCBO because it's hard to import. Believe it or not, import out like into
Province to
Ontario.
province, like another country. I know. We're in a little bubble here in Ontario. We should do a whole show about the hell it is with the liquor licensing agency in Ontario.
Oh, goodness.
But then it won't be tagging the Alcohol Gaming Commission
Yeah,
very often.
maybe we'd be careful about the tagging that day, but there's definitely, especially from an event standpoint, we got a lot to say about.
Oh,
liquor
yeah.
licensing it.
Well, especially, it'd be good tips for people who are having to set up bars for events. And then there's
It's
other
so
times when you're
complex.
going to, they do have a lot of events and tastings, and there's new trends right now with tasting bars. We can compare it to the SAQ, and oh my goodness. Okay, that's another show.
Wow.
And then I said I went to that Montez event, and then I've also was sending out information on the California Wine Fair. I'm going to be heading there in April. Going to the Ottawa show. There's dates actually all across Canada. So if you go to, it's probably on my Facebook page. So if you look up Stephanie Piche, you'll be able to find it. Or even better, if you send me an email or just message me on Facebook, I'll put you on an email newsletter list that I've just created now. I've just been doing it the last week or two for people who want to get updates on not just my wine tasting and classes here, but all the other wine tastings, whether it's a trade tasting, whether it's a public event, across Ontario, as well as in Quebec. If you want to know the other dates, if there's always available, like Vancouver or something like that, I'll let you know. But I want to start sharing more of these really cool events that I'm finding online that are not just wine focused, but there's a whiskey one, and then there's other food pairing ones. And every time I'm hearing of all these events, I think it'll be fun for a summer project to just go and do eating and drinking events.
Yeah.
Around the province. Like, how fun is that? Right? Yeah. So anyway, so all you have to do is you can send me an email at flavor@stephaniepiche.ca, and I'll set you up on that newsletter list. All right, travel. Stacey was in Jamaica. Woo!
Yeah, man.
So I was thinking about you because she must have had a lot of fun, because she certainly wasn't very active on social media that week.
But you were there while the bobsled team was in the Olympics. Did you
Yes.
watch it live, like in a bar or something?
No, surprisingly,
That would've been
the
rowdy.
resorts didn't.
That's weird.
Yeah, some of the resorts don't do that. Certain resorts guarantee certain sporting events,
Yeah.
but not all.
Huh.
I didn't make it to the sports bar though, to be honest.
Oh. Hence
Yeah,
the
but that
reason
would
for
have been an
social media.
adventure, though. I think so. If the bobsled, if I knew the bobsled team was, was racing.
So you were in
Negril.
Negril. Did you? The reason I was asking is just because I haven't been there in a while, and I haven't talked to anybody who's been in Jamaica. And if you saw any mention or anything else about the curfews in Mobay.
No, and I didn't even know there was one leaving here. Surprisingly, I know people said, "Oh, be careful, be careful." And being a travel agent, I'm always like, "Well, you got to be careful anywhere you go." First of all,
Of course.
Surprisingly, the same. I do a lot of research on my own on time, but all of the Caribbean islands mainly have the same travel restriction for anybody, because they want to be able to bring out their government if there's an issue in the streets. So if you take a Google, go into the Canada, I think it's the Government of Canada travel restrictions, like pull up Dominican, pull up all of the other Caribbean islands, a lot of them are at the same level of
Risk.
caution.
Yeah.
Because it then allows them to bring in their armies if there's ever an issue in their streets. So they do a state of emergency, which is what Jamaica did, so that if there was ever, because tourism is their major income,
Yeah.
if there was ever a problem, they can shut it down really quickly.
Well, that makes sense, but I'm sure I heard that there was some kind of something specific in Montego Bay specifically.
Well, and that's where all the violence was initially. But we traveled through with a private transfer. And there were a couple of times, but I'm always cautious about where I am, and I see we're in a private van going out, and I'm always like, okay, where's the lock on this door? And but I would do that downtown New York, I would do that downtown Toronto, I would do that anywhere, just because I'm aware of why is that person kind of, just their body language and stuff, and just because we've been heightened by the fact of the violence.
See, and that's funny, because as you're talking about that, going, oh my God, I am probably the most naive traveler. I just feel like I'm one of the locals, and I don't give anything a second look.
Well, and trust me though, normally I'm like, well, I'm aware of it, but usually when we all go on vacation, I shouldn't say we, that would be like, I don't know, projecting perception, but the fact is that I find a lot of clients that I have say, well, I'm fine, I'm totally safe. It's like there's actually like a dislocate between being safe. When I'm on vacation, nothing can happen to me. Well,
Yeah, I'm not that bad, but
do you know what I mean? Like things can happen.
Yeah.
But you have to just be aware of your surroundings, be aware of how do you get a hold of the police in a different language? What can you use on your cell phone? How do you get that? How do you do those things? Because you do need to know if you're leaving the resort. I mean, I would have to research each island to be actually. Maybe I'll do that one day, and we'll create a.
You saw me
I
winking
just-
at you.
I knew-
Going,
I knew.
wow, that sounds like an
like a
entire
cool
show
show
right
right
there.
Immediately, I'm just thinking like, what are the emergency numbers for every country,
but
right?
it's true,
You know,
but
Australia was
embassies,
000
embassies,
or
consulates,
911,
all that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Right. And I mean, you need to know where you're going and what the issue is. And I mean, I think there was something in the news too about, I don't remember when, but I mean, you hear people wearing the wrong kind of clothes. There's certain places where you can't wear camo. If you wear camo, you're like, do you know what I mean? Like there are places in this world.
Sorry, not that I would wear camo.
No,
Is that what you're
no.
laughing at?
So you shouldn't wear camo outside of, the valley,
oh, I'm
although I'm
sorry.
joking as I'm wearing camo.
That's
also.
I
just- I was just gonna say camo's hot right now. So
It is.
But it's a good point that culturally, right? It's
No, because it shows army, right,
Yeah.
to a lot of people, and it's a disrespect if you're. And I mean, you just have to be aware of what you're walking into, and should you be wearing head garments? Like, I mean, in different countries, you have to. If you're a woman, you have to wear hair garments. And
Here's
stuff.
lots. Would it be? We'll have to save it for the show.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just talk. So since you're talking about all that travel stuff, let's keep it going then. So, because we could talk about safety, we don't have to do general safety, but most of it for people who are traveling alone, because maybe that's where a lot of these little tips come from. So, what tips do you have for people who are traveling solo? Because people may not realize this, but that's one of my bucket list things, is I want to go on a trip by myself. I have some personal reasons why I'm waiting. I'm not quite sure. I'm going to guess maybe in the next 5 years. And it's partly because my husband loves to come with me wherever I'm going. But he's always been okay with me traveling wherever as it is anyways. But I just haven't decided where I want to go, right? Mm-hmm. I almost want to choose a place that I would be excited to go to that's not his thing, not really his. So I'm looking for some inspiration.
Ooh.
Stacy,
Okay.
help me.
Cool.
Well, I guess it would depend on what you're excited about and traveling, because I mean, I would have to ask. I mean,
Eating and drinking. What a shocker.
yeah. I mean, it just depends on. I mean, tips for that though is that where would you go? Where would you want to go? I mean, I've traveled the majority of my life alone, but no, I find that traveling alone, you can explore more, you can meet more people, you have more of a. Depending on who you're with or who you're not with, it'd be like going with a bunch of girlfriends or guys and just exploring everything and anything without a whim, being
that idea
spontaneous,
of not
and
having to
doing
answer
it.
to someone else,
Well,
right?
I want to go
And
to the
follow what
buffet,
someone
or
else
I
wants
want to go to the bar and have that extra drink, or I want to go do this. Not that you have to do that, but traveling single is amazing. Some people have that fear, though. I mean, I even say when I'm going alone, first thing I go, be careful. Be careful. Are you sure you're safe? Like, where are you going? Why are you doing that? Like, what's wrong with you? But I'm like, no, I love it. And a lot of places cater to single travel.
I'm assuming there must be like special like resorts or tour things or certain destinations or certain hotels that are used to more of solo travelers. Are you finding that there's certain areas that, like, if you went traveling by yourself, was there any other place that you can think of that, oh my God, there was a whole pile of single people here?
Surprisingly, no. I usually end up like befriending people that are in couples, but I mean, again, you do find like there's certain places like cruise ships, for instance, they do have solo cabins where they have solo lounges, where they have solo activities set up for you.
They have solo dining?
Yes.
Okay, because that would be that's what would be bothering me. Like, I would hate to be like that
Yes.
third wheel at a table for the entire weekend
Right.
cruise.
Well,
right?
solo dining for like for an entire concept, like a dining room full of people eating alone.
No. I mean, no.
Everyone has their own little table, like desks
Well,
in
that's
the
what,
glass
like
room.
when we're talking about segregation, right? So you had me wondering.
They're all facing the same direction.
No. I mean, for that, you'd actually reserve a table, one person per table. It's like when
Right.
you go on a cruise, you have to say, do you want early dining, late dining, middle dining, or whatever? And then you would ask, do you want anytime dining, or do you want how many per table? And so then you log that in, and normally it's one per table, or two per table, or four per table. And if you're like two people, sometimes you get put with people that are there's a couple, like 3 or 4 different couples put to a table of 6, which is not a bad thing, because then
Larger tables would be better as
Yes.
opposed to smaller groups where you find like
Yes.
it's more intimate and
For singles, especially, I would think like community tables would be
Absolutely.
way more fun than
Absolutely.
getting put with a couple of couples and being that fifth wheel.
Absolutely. And I don't think they do that. I've never experienced, I've either had a table alone or a table of a group of people that
you got a
had
table alone.
I've always had tables alone.
Oh, that's cool.
On cruises, absolutely.
Oh, because I did find an article when I was doing some research on this, and one of the things was there was a whole article about why cruises are a great place to travel alone.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's like it's a total floating 5-star hotel, total floating 5-star restaurant
Yeah.
in different places. If you're willing to pay for the a la cartes, they're even better. Or
I was actually, because that's one of the things I was thinking about, is that maybe a cruise, and then because they have different ports, right, that I could stop at. And I can, that's the only thing about cruises. I always found that we're on a schedule, right, all the time. And I find that I could probably, if I wanted to hang out in my room for a while,
You
I
can.
could. If I want to go and sit and just read and stuff, I can. And that's one of those things. It's not that I don't love traveling with my husband, but he's got ants in his pants.
Yeah.
Right? He wants to be doing something, going somewhere, or whatever. And sometimes I'm okay just sitting. So that's going to be a different style, but I have some time to research. So that's
It's
awesome.
interesting because as a card carrying introvert, I'm very fascinated by the idea of it because I'm also super self conscious if I'm dining alone or whatever. But I don't do it a lot. I've got a husband and kids and 25 years of like never being alone. So, but when I think about the idea of traveling, like say taking a cruise on my own, and the idea of like the community tables and all that kind of thing, that then the big challenge for an introvert is having to make small talk, which is so painful. So hearing that there are opportunities to just not have to talk to people too is like super valuable. Like if I could have a week where I didn't have to talk to anyone for beyond like ordering my food or something, that would be heaven.
it's very feasible. I mean, I've brought books to a table and finished more than one book throughout a cruise.
Yep.
More than one book. I mean, and I'm also only talking about cruises, but all inclusives as well.
Yes.
I mean, easily all you do. Unfortunately, some of the providers out there don't offer the lack of single supplement.
Well, and that's what I was just
Well,
going to
and-
kind of raise was even I'm looking at my brother's wedding next month, and when I was looking at rates and potentially not bringing my husband due to childcare and whatever, and it was costing me still 50% more
Yes.
to travel by myself, and I'm like, well, if I've got to pay 50% more, I'm going to find childcare and bring my husband along because it's you're definitely penalized for being a single at that point.
I agree, and it was a beef for me, and it still is a beef for me because when I travel alone, you end up paying exactly. It's usually the
About
price
50%
plus
more.
a half.
Yeah.
So and on cruise is the same. So it's like the regular double occupancy price plus 50%. So it's better off to find a room buddy and bring them because it's cheaper for you rather than not. But again, you have
it's
to
available.
plan it
It's an
out.
option,
It's an
but-
option. They can also, a lot of providers will pair you up with the same
If you're
sex
willing
people,
to.
if you're willing to, but you never know what you're going to get. I mean, I've done it with
It's
travel
like college
agents.
dorms.
Oh, it is. I've gone to Italy and paired up with people. I've gone to China and paired people with that. But I mean, it's kind of like, is it worth it? Well, it is for 28 days, right? Because the thing is, if you're going to spend 28 days, do you really want to spend that plus 50%? Or do you get another person and you kind of go with it, right? But
Interesting.
you have to be open to that. And I mean, some providers, though, granted, I think that Sunwing and Air Transat sometimes, every now and then, I mean, feel free to reach out through me through the site. I mean, every now and then they do have a single supplement wave time zone.
Well, I was just kind of thinking with all the new resorts that keep getting built, and the trend right now is there are more and more people either divorced, not getting married at all, or whatever, and want to travel alone. Why are they not building
catering to that.
smaller rooms or whatever that are for singles? Like I haven't decided why they're so behind. I understand if the rooms have already been done and there's so many square feet and so yes, every square footage counts, right? In all businesses, it just does. So I get that. But when you're doing new builds or renovations, like take that into consideration, right?
I know, like in cruise ships, they have solo cabins. They're called studio cabins. Like Norwegian has studio cabins.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not the first one to do it. They've got you have the Royal Caribbean, you have Holland America, Costa Cruises, you have all of these different ones that have that ability to do that, and they've got these kind of like Viking River Cruises, AMA. They all have them, but however, the thing is, and there's always a however when you're going solo, you still need to look at the prices. You still need to reach out to a travel agent, reach out to me, reach out to whoever you want and say, listen, can you do some costings about dates? Like if you're flexible, know the year ahead because it's sort of like they book up very quickly.
There's only so many solo
Space
cabins,
is
right?
limited. Absolutely. And they sell it really quickly. So you have to book early or you risk missing the boat, right?
Oh,
If you could see the look on Stacey's
it's like
face
you were
right now,
planning.
she's really proud of that one.
She was planning to use that all day. I was just gonna say, when you mentioned Costa Cruise Lines, I haven't heard that in forever. Norman and I went on one a long time ago. It kills me. So it's an Italian cruise ship line, and so every time you go in any of those elevators, everything's in Italian, right? Oh no! Like every time you hit a floor, it was just. Anyways, it was an interesting cruise. That's for sure. It was fun. Okay, so dining solo. Anybody else have any trouble? You said, Deke, you said you've traveled quite a bit.
Well, I've traveled.
Alone?
I have traveled alone. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I've been to Cuba alone.
Yep.
And I loved it. It was like the best trip of my life. Just to observe silence. I had my own set of rules, like for just.
Oh, own set of rules. That's a good tip.
Yeah, I had my own set of rules, and I just went mostly just to observe silence and to mentally reset. You know, I wasn't there to party. I wasn't there to meet girls. I wasn't there to overeat so I behaved myself and I just enjoyed the trip. And you know, I observed silence and I ended up meeting my best friend now who lives in Mississauga. That's where I met him. You know, I made some really close friends out of it. And it was really, really cool.
I'm sure that you're prioritizing and you see things differently when you're there as opposed to.
Yeah.
Because I can see that. Because there's sometimes, I understand. As much as I love traveling with my husband, I do admit that sometimes I have blinders on and I'm probably not as aware of other people and other things around me the same as if he was when he's not there, right?
It's.
I think it's about having the same kind of awareness that you'd have anywhere. Whether you're walking down the street of Sudbury, Toronto, you know, behind Cape Rail or whatever, it's still having that awareness of your surroundings and where you are.
There's something to be said about being selfish enough to indulge in a moment alone without the validation of someone else.
Absolutely.
That's a great line.
Absolutely.
You know, it's
Quote that.
That's deep. That deserves more report.
Yeah. But you know what I mean, though? I mean, like, usually in moments like that, you'd wish that there was someone there, or you'd look over to see them smiling for their approval. This moment's awesome. It's just, it's almost eerie, the silence, when you're forcing yourself to take it all in your own, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's nothing, and I'll add to that if it's okay. I've stood on many of a ship's side at night, staring out into the horizon and looking up to the stars, and you don't see anything other than stars, and everything else is dark. How overwhelming and how awe-inspiring is that? But
Absolutely.
You would love to be able to go turn to someone and say, wow. But then the only person is you're fulfilling yourself. You're filling the stuff that we forget to fill. Because if your bucket isn't full, what else is filling? I mean, we spend money on experiences now mainly. And that's the trend for travel, is that people are saving money to spend on travel so that they can have those experiences. And it's great. And I mean, another thing too is that there's tours out there as well to different countries.
Okay,
And
so you're not always alone.
You're not alone, but you're still experiencing it. You have the ability to step back, not engage in the 20 some odd other people that are on your bus or not on the bus.
Yeah.
Yet you still have that. What I found, though, I've done tours before and I've done countries by myself. With the tours fact is that no one has to think about anything.
Right.
You're actually herded like an animal. You have to be on the bus at a certain time. You finish this, you do this, you get off, you go to the washroom here, you have dinner, you have lunch. Everybody, you're with them. And so there is no thought process. And as a travel agent, don't you want to experience the possibilities of what you could experience on a trip if I created one versus a tour that's already cut and dry?
Yeah.
It's like you want to go on a roller coaster while you're in wherever, I'll find you one.
Yeah.
You know, or I want to do hot air ballooning, but it's not on. No problem. Here we go. Or
The reality is you could have a tour planned out for yourself, custom made for you, versus getting on the bus with you.
Yeah, I mean, but there's but that's two versions of solo travel.
That's true.
Yeah.
If you go alone on a tour group, you're still alone. You're still solo traveling. However, at the same token, if you just do it alone, rent a car, go for it, and that's solo traveling too. But it's sort of like, let's go backpack, solo traveling. It's just where's the gamut, right?
Yeah.
And people love it. Anybody
Driving on my own would not be fun.
No, I wouldn't go.
No, that whole idea of hopping in a car and driving by myself, nope, not my thing. But I was intrigued when I did, there's a bonus episode I did about the cruising, and I was talking to there was that one lady, and she's probably someplace in the Pacific right now, because I think she was gone for a month or two, but she's been, since the day she retired, and she's single. She has just done one cruise after another after another. She was actually on one of the cruises going to meet a couple who were celebrating their 50th anniversary that she met on a previous cruise, and it's the three of them going on the cruise. So they invited her, but she's made friends and stuff along the way, and she's got everything mapped out, and now her thing is that she's saving up because she wants to do the round the world cruise, which I think is so cool. But I mean, she's got to be mid-60s. I'm thinking, good for her.
Absolutely. And an add-on to that as well, Stephanie, is that I have one set of clients who retired, and they decided to move out of their retirement home here in Sudbury. They are now living permanently on cruise to cruise to cruise to cruise to cruise till they die.
Yeah.
That is their choice. They've saved their money. They're investing it in the way they want, and that's all they do. I've booked them back to back to back to back cruises.
That's amazing.
I've heard of that quite a bit, saying that it's
There's
why
the
not?
best healthcare.
Yeah.
Your room's always clean. You
Someone
can do the
making my
buffet.
bed every day.
Well, you can go to the buffet. It's all included.
Yeah.
You don't have to do the booze package or whatever the packages are. It's a very affordable way of getting good quality of life. You don't have to do the excursions. You can go out and walk.
I've heard of people in the States. I remember it made huge news. This was probably 10 years ago. There was one lady when she was researching retirement homes that the cost of it, she said, for the cost of what she was getting for what she'd have to pay, it was cheaper for her to go on a cruise ship.
Absolutely.
So she's been traveling the world
Amazing, eh?
for the rest of her life because she said she was getting much better service, much better food, much better whatever.
Imagine.
Right?
And the companionship, you don't have the same people sitting in the same dining room every single week.
Yeah.
Every single day.
It's like a whole new
for a week.
retirement home every week.
Every week. The turnover's great.
Marcy's
In a good
on
way.
the piano
Same,
again.
except for the sector, it's the it's the same shows, it's the same bingo. Oh, sorry.
How did you say it? Say it again.
Is it, Margie's on the piano again.
And I said the turnover's only a good reason.
Can you imagine the same? Oh my god, that'd be hilarious. The same magic show. Oh, for crying out loud.
Anyways.
Okay.
Tapioca Tuesdays.
Tapioca Tuesdays. Yeah, well, yeah. By then, after being on there for that long, you
tapioca.
probably have your own area in the kitchen. I'm dying. Oh, okay.
I just went sideways.
Okay, since we're going into dining talk, I'll talk a little bit about solo dining because this is one of my things.
Yeah.
So I did some research. There's actually a stat out there. So the number of solo diners, according to Open Table, has grown by 62%. So there's more and more people that are eating alone, and not just eating alone because they have to or whatever. They're actually making reservations at restaurants and they're going out to eat on their own, which is great. So to give you a little background, like I've eaten alone quite a bit, either because sometimes we've gone away someplace where he's at a conference or whatever, and I've tagged along with him for the trip. So while he's in meetings, that's where I get to start choosing places that I want to go to that he may not be the craziest. So he wasn't really excited to go to Mr. Chow in Beverly Hills because upscale Chinese didn't really appeal to him. But I wanted to go because it's just legendary, like to do Mr. Chow and just to sort of sit there and take in the whole experience of having Peking duck by myself. Thank you very much. But again, just to say, I had Peking duck alone at Mr. Chow in Beverly Hills. Didn't see a solo star anywhere, but that's okay. But it was just that whole thing of he doesn't get the hype of it, so it's a perfect opportunity for me to go and do that stuff. But meanwhile, I'm always telling people that if you're going to go dining by yourself, don't go to the big fancy white tablecloth places where they're used to romantic dinners, because that's where you really stand out, unless you're comfortable with it. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about as a diner first. So my only tip is don't go at peak times, and that's just from the restaurant perspective. So unfortunately, one of the reasons that a lot of restaurants are not catering to solo diners is because they're less. The average check is less, right?
Yeah.
So they tend to either rush through your service, right? Or they're sitting you someplace that nobody else wants to sit.
In the corner near the kitchen or...
Yeah, or the bathroom or whatever. Like there's always different things. And so the easiest time for you to be seated, even if you do have a reservation, that you're going to get the best attention and you can kind of relax into it, is usually outside of the peak time. So 7 o'clock on a Saturday is 7 or 8, between 7 and 8 is probably not the best time. So either do early service or a late service, depending on how busy that restaurant is. And again, I was just saying, if you're new to dining alone, going to a busy, noisy place, no one's going to be looking at you. right? So you can go and sit wherever you want. If you want to sit at the bar, if you want to sit at a table by yourself and people watch. Sometimes going to one of those crazy busy places and you just sit there and watch the chaos in front of you, it's actually quite amusing. So those white tablecloth places like Mr. Chow and Beverly Hills, you may want to save for another time when we're used to dining alone. Making a reservation's good. Only because you're giving them a heads up that you're coming there and you're dining alone. So hopefully they have a table for one ready for you.
You don't get those, just you tonight?
Just you, yes. So the word just should never be, anyway, I'll get to the whole do not do's for a second. But it's one of those things that it avoids that awkward conversation at the front at the hostess stand or with the maitre d', and then this way when you're sitting down, especially if they don't have your table ready for you, which I never understand. Like if I make a reservation for one, don't sit me at a table that's got 4 people and then spend the next 2 minutes with 3 staff people clearing up all the place settings so that everyone's watching and clearing it up. Absolutely. Right? So be okay with asking where you want to be seated. If they try to stick you in a corner or something else, you have every right not to be, and if you need to, you can go to someplace else. I love sitting at a bar. Sometimes it's because this gives me the flexibility. If I want to chat with the bartender or someone nearby, I can. If I don't, I'm not facing anyone where I'm forced to talk to them. Yeah. I also, bartenders are used to people eating there alone. So they really know how to read whether you want conversation or not conversation. And if seriously you want to zone out because your brain's fried, if there's a TV over that bar, you've got yourself built-in entertainment, right? Or again, you can just watch the drunk people. People watching is actually fantastic entertainment when you're at a restaurant. Oh, another thing besides bar seating, if the weather's nice and they have seating out on a sidewalk on a patio is another opportunity. Sitting outside, especially if it's like little bistro tables that are facing out onto a street, you can sort of.
I love people watching.
Yeah, it's fun.
We have a lot of patios out here in Sudbury too. Right?
Yeah,
I think it's growing.
It is. That's a whole other. That's a whole other show. Bylaws. Sorry, but anyways, yeah. So we're getting some more of them, but that's one of the bonuses of it. This is going to sound strange, but if you dress a little better than just standard going to like KFC kind of thing, at least it's showing that you aren't going to go in there and order half a salad. Because again, they're already paranoid of a solo diner, and the servers are going to be like, oh my God, it's going to be like a $5 check and there's no tips and it's a waste of my time. So if you actually make an effort, and even if you haven't made a reservation, just kind of show that you're not there to, ask for 4 leftovers and divide this by 3. And
can I have a basket of bread and a glass of water?
Yeah, and here's my 3 coupons. Right? So it's awful to have to do that. But the other funny thing is, this is just tips for me, when you go dining alone and you're dressed up, the number of people that look at you funny and they think you're there to review the place is wild.
Especially when you take your camera out and
that's what I do. So I do review restaurants, but it's not a rating system. It's not for a rating app. It's not for anything else. I don't put my reviews on TripAdvisor or anything like that. So it's not going to be affecting an overall restaurant's performance. It is only for my readers, followers, and stuff on my blog. But yes, me making little notes and taking pictures. You want to see how fast I get some better service? It's kind of funny, actually. So I try not to be overly obvious with it, because I think that's kind of. But yes, they're always on the lookout for solo diners for that reason. So fake it. Don't get forced to sit with someone else. It doesn't just. I don't find it happens as much here where they have those communal tables. I want to do a whole show on communal tables. I'm not a big fan of communal tables. Hence, I'm also an introvert that way, where I want to socialize at my own time. I don't need to have other people around. And the whole idea of sitting on one of those long tables and being forced to talk to other people feels like a cafeteria, and that drives me bonkers. But even in overseas, there's a lot of restaurants. Mostly, I found it was in Italy. Not so much in France, but I know in Italy there's been quite a few times, even if Norm and I would go to a restaurant and there was only 2 of us, depending on how busy it was, they've asked us to seat us with another couple because they only had a 4-top left. So you can't just go or if you're bringing stuff into work and you want a larger table, no, this is for 2, only 2 people sit here. So they're very, very aware of the price per head that goes into that restaurant. And so they're very aware of it, especially family-run places where every penny counts. I understand it, but if you're going there alone, to have to start sitting with another stranger to eat. So just keep that in mind when you're going to some of those places, because you have to be aware of that. Actually, the funny story is that good friends of ours in Peterborough, we actually met them because we were both there at the conference, and because we got forced to sit together after our the boat cruise in Venice. It was a dinner package with dinner afterwards, and the restaurant made us 4 of us sit together. And what are the odds that the couple that we sat with were from Peterborough?
That's amazing.
It was
Amazing.
cool.
But
Not to mention our husbands both work for the same company.
Very cool.
What are the odds?
That is bizarre.
I know. So we've been friends ever since. But
Yeah, no,
it
we
all
had a
stopped with
similar-
being forced dining.
A similar experience, not so much forced, but we were at a restaurant that had this wicked crazy lineup, and we were coming from a prestigious hotel, and the concierge knew the other concierge and said there was like the lineup was around the corner, and our concierge was like, we'll get you a table. And so we like rocked in, and they had a table ready for us, but there's this lineup around the block. And I had said to my girlfriend, I'm like, how do you feel about, because we got this big huge table, there's this massive lineup, we were like there casual, it's not like it was a romantic dinner, and it was like a casual eating place as well. I'm like, why don't we open it up that if there's the next couple wants to come in and sit, that they're welcome to join us. And we became good friends with them, and we still talk to them all the time on Facebook and stuff. And so there are definitely some cool opportunities to do that, but like you say, you got to be ready and aware for
Yeah, you got to kind of
experience
plan
of it.
for it. I think that's a good one. I was going to comment have to do with your mindset of what you're expecting.
Yeah.
And if you are going in that you're nervous or you're embarrassed to be alone, it shows.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it shows in your body language, it shows in your facial expressions, it
They
shows
watch
what you're
you too,
ordering.
right? It's not
They,
just
they do. So just kind of get that mindset on it. I always either bring, a lot of times I'm usually working, so I'll take that as an opportunity to, I'll even, especially when I'm traveling in norms and meetings, I'll usually eat in the hotel, maybe for breakfast in the morning. And I'll always bring my laptop or something with me. And so I'll say to them, which is relieves them of trying to ask me if I'm eating alone. I want to get some work done while I'm having some breakfast. Is there a table that you can put me at that I'm working on my laptop that's not going to disturb anybody else? That'll have room for me, like for me and my breakfast. So I'm kind of telling them I'm eating by myself.
Yeah.
I'm bringing my laptop. You can seat me someplace where it's not going to disturb anybody. Yeah. So I've been the one kind of controlling how that goes. And it makes them a little bit more receptive to, oh, by all means, like, how about this table or this table? And so I usually bring either an iPad or I'll bring, I think, something to do work with. Mm-hmm. And it also signals to servers that, yes, I'm there to do something else and I'm not here to chat with you and I'm not here to pick up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's another issue of being a female
cruising.
at a restaurant. Yes, I am not here for the amusement of others. So I was reading about this, but just because when you're dining alone, if you have to go to the ladies' room or boys' room, so it's one of those things that you don't want to leave your purse there.
Yeah.
If you leave the table and you're by yourself,
What do you leave?
you should, for ladies, that will look in your handbag, so either your book, if you have a scarf.
Pretty
So
close
kind of
to
think
the
about
walls.
that ahead of time. So something of yours, either sunglasses or whatever. And also if you paid attention to our dining etiquette class, your napkin does not go, right? It goes in the, so it signals that you're still coming back, and depending on how you left your utensils out, whether you've been served or not, they'll figure it out because you're not going to leave your purse there and you can take it with you to the ladies' room. So if you have something that you can leave there, or what I'll usually do is when the server's coming by, I'll signal them over and saying, just letting you know, I'm just going to the ladies' room in case you're wondering where I went. So the more you have that kind of conversation with them, then they will actually be prepared and they'll watch your stuff, and
Yeah,
which is great.
I think
Yeah.
communicating it to them is pretty key.
It is. Tipping. So I finished saying earlier about how servers are usually discouraged when they see a table for one because they're not making as much money. However, if you're a local and you're there often, especially if you're tipping well, you'll be treated like a king or a queen the next time that you're going back. Because you do realize that, yes, the tables, how they're assigned, the servers on average are going to make less with solo diners. But so as long as you're recognizing that or whatever and thanking them for the attentive service or whatever else. But a lot of restaurants now, especially in the larger cities, they have entire solo dining VIP type programs now where they're giving like a free glass of champagne for someone who's coming in alone, or they really spoil the VIPs. Danny Mayer in New York is one of the ones that started doing that, but it's one of those things that makes you feel special. So people keep going back to them. So they're thinking about it. So being honest and open with your server so they know how much or little attention you need. Yes. If you don't want to talk, don't talk a lot to them. If you want to be chatty, you can start asking questions like, how's your day, blah, blah, blah. That gives them something to start with.
Cute, yeah.
Right? And then I'll always joke around because this way if I'm asking them questions, and then they'll usually come back to me and say, so what brings you here, kind of thing, and I can say, oh, my husband's here on conference or whatever, and I'm here to get some work done for a couple hours. So it starts that conversation, and it's a little easier that way, where it's not that, so you're really not really waiting for anybody? Nope, I'm all good. And if you're seated at a bar, make sure to eat and not just drink, especially if you're a female, because sitting there with a glass of wine looks like every other movie plot with the well-dressed lady sitting at a bar. Sounds awful, but a lady sitting at a bar having a drink by herself just asks for...
Indicates something different.
It doesn't just indicate it. It's just, unfortunately, there's still people out there thinking that you're there for a reason.
Judging. It's real.
Yeah, it looks like you want company, right?
If you do want company, that's what you do.
And if you do want company, then that's what you do.
Okay, and so yeah, there you go. Okay, so there's real. That's dating tips 101 in restaurants. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to time for fly in my soup. This is the time of the episode where I get to rant a little bit. I'm doing pretty well with my medication, eh? Do I sound really...
No, you're
No, not at all.
Whew, okay. So fly in my soup, of course, this week is servers or restaurants that treat solo diners like social outcasts.
Oh, God, I know.
Okay, so has this ever happened to you when you're dining out by yourself? Either completely ignoring you, right? They just keep going by and you're like, hello. Or don't tell you the specials.
Yeah.
Don't. They start delivering the food so fast that you're getting your entree by the time, because they just want to get you out of there, right? You're barely getting one plate done and they're racing through. No bread or pickle, all the other stuff that everyone usually gets when you start at a restaurant. Like they're not giving you that.
No.
No water refills, or they sit you at the bad table at the table next to the bathroom or something. So those are the pet peeves. So here's some other ones. And this is the tips for the servers out there or restaurant owners or managers. So don't assume that someone is being stood up or looking for a date.
Yeah.
Don't seat people in the worst seats. Maybe give them a choice of where they want to sit. If they are very shy, they may want that table in the corner. But if they may not, don't assume that they want to go and sit by themselves that way. Ask them if they want to be quiet. Or if they want things quiet, like don't hesitate.
Right.
Hey, do you want to?
Love it.
Right?
Communicate it.
Just say like what. So ask questions.
Oh my gosh.
If the budget allows, offer a sample of a new wine off your list. Right? It's by the glass. Hey, just get their input. It kind of makes them feel special and gets them engaged, because they might be just shy about talking to somebody. It's not because they don't want conversation. They might be just shy, and that's the way to open them up. Offering someone free wine will always open them up. Or a new cocktail or something like that. And because a lot of times solo diners are just going out to treat themselves. Yeah. So by you adding to that special occasion might be a good thing. If you offer more bar seating, if you can, because a lot of solo diners look to see if you have a bar that they can sit at. And one of the couple of things that I've seen, I know in Montreal, there's been a couple of places that I've noticed that when they do have their bar, even though their bar area is not hopping during the day, they will always have a couple of seats on the side already having place settings. So it shows that we recognize and welcome solo dining here at the bar if you want it. So not all the bar seats, but just a couple of them are. As opposed to like at the Keg, if you decided to eat at the Keg at the bar, they have the place settings in behind and they'll pull it out. But if you already have a couple down at the end that are ready to go, it just welcomes solo diners there better. And then if you don't have a bar area, I love this, adding a long high top table against the window facing out.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, that's a nice idea.
Right? So there's been a couple times where you want to sit at a little place and it just has one of those, or you can actually build like an extra wide shelf. So Respect kind of has that.
Yeah,
right?
Along the front, and it's set like that, like it's set and ready to go.
It's set ready to go like that. So, during the warmer weather, someone can actually sit at those. So instead of sitting at the bar inside, you're actually sitting at that seating facing out, which is great. Try to see some kind of make sure that there's an available entertainment of some sort, whether it's a specific view, whether it's close to a television. If you have live music, sit them there. So something that if they didn't bring books with them, wouldn't even hurt to have a spare iPad kicking around with like magazines, newspapers, whatever. My favorite thing in Los Angeles, and I went to, wasn't the Mr. Chow, it was another restaurant. And when I went into this restaurant and I was very excited to have lunch there, actually, it was a late breakfast, and the waiter was very chatty, didn't just do the just you or whatever. Let me choose a seat out in the patio, and then he said, he goes, I know you brought your own work and stuff you said you were doing, but did you want one of today's papers? And you
I was
gave me
just
an
gonna
option
say,
of.
I've had that offered.
So yeah, New York Times, LA Times, like they had 3 or 4 because they were attached to a hotel. They were completely set up for all these different options that I could just have whatever I wanted.
Yeah,
So
I think it was the same thing at a hotel, kind of attached to a restaurant, attached to a hotel.
yeah,
Same
hotel
thing.
restaurants are usually
great way to
that's
do it.
another good tip. Hotel restaurants are used to having solo diners.
Yeah.
So if you're not a hotel restaurant and you need some ideas, go to a hotel restaurant and check out to see what they're doing for solo diners, or go dining yourself by yourself and figure out what they're missing.
That's a good idea.
There we go. Other thing is making the menu flexible. So allowing half portions on certain things. Tasting menus for one. Don't make it there's a minimum of having so many people order things. And there was one other great idea that I saw. I don't know if it was down in Toronto on Valentine's Day. They started off this whole new trend, but I guess all restaurants keep having all these specials. So much for 2. This for 2.
Yes.
Package price fixed for 2, right?
I know.
So how many singles do you know probably stayed at home because they didn't want to be going out and
There
getting
was no
forced to
place to
having all
eat.
these two tops, right? Or specials for 2. So having that flexibility that if you wanted to order something on your own, you're not being forced to order that, which I thought was kind of cool. But I guess this one restaurant now basically just does, they have one night of the year, it's all singles that go out, which is a lot of fun, right? That's cool. And then if there isn't a table preset for one, especially because if you didn't make a reservation, make sure as a server to clear the other table setting, but please don't take away the chair.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it's been, I don't know if you saw the tweet that I posted. It was actually on The Tonight Show from Jimmy Fallon last night. That's one of the reasons I posted it. Was because he did, his hashtags. And the hashtag was how I got dumped. And I guess the guy
Yes.
called the restaurant and the waiter, instead of announcing that your guest wasn't coming, cleared the table setting and took the chair. And that's how she found out that her date wasn't coming. So I was like, seriously? Anyway,
That is
so
amazing.
it is amazing. So you want to, you know what? If you go
Not in
to
a
a
good way,
restaurant,
but
buy save
amazing.
wine, but please don't pull the chair away. Don't make this huge deal out of it where we have to go and seat you on this side. And as I said, get 3 or 4 staff member to come over and help you in the big commotion of changing the table setup. Try not to make it as obvious.
Discretion is nice.
And then the last one was, as you mentioned earlier, read the body language. So as a diner, you need to send the signals that you are happy eating alone, right? If you are happy eating alone, you should be. And if not, it is okay. You need to be able to anticipate what the diner is kind of wanting, whether they want to chit chat or not, whether they want to be on their own, whether, if they're looking around frantic, keeping an eye on them in the corner of your eye to get their attention, that kind of thing. Anybody else have any other tips?
I do.
Oh, good.
I have one that's sort of travel, but food as well. Food travel. There's an assumption made that solo. You mentioned it, and it's not just assumption. I think it's more of the waiters and waitresses that make this assumption. Because you're solo, you aren't going to even look at some of the nice wines or the really nice entrees.
Oh yeah,
a lot of the solo
nobody brings you a wine list.
No, do you know the funny thing is that a lot of solos are solo because they choose to be solo. And they have a great profession and they're financially very independent and wealthy. People forget that moment. And it's sort of like, we're willing to do first class. We're willing to go to the white tablecloth diners by ourselves.
Yep.
Don't miss an opportunity to upsell someone sitting by themselves to have a glass of champagne. Yeah. Don't miss the opportunity of saying to someone, do you want to fly a first class? Don't miss that opportunity because you don't know who's who.
You never know. And there's a lot of... And I think there's a lot of people who choose to stay single because they love that.
They love that single. I love single. You know what I mean? Like everybody
there's no
does.
saying that every person who's dining alone is single either.
Absolutely.
Right? But
That's
that's
the
it.
thing.
Like I think at the end of the day, it's like not making judgments, right? It's that whole kind of thing. So for us as the solo diners, own it because you're eating alone. It is what it is. So you're just going to go eat and do your thing. And then if the staff can turn on, not assume that someone who's owning it and eating solo is like a loser who has no friends.
Absolutely.
That
it could
from
be
both
you
sides.
who's been married for 25 years. Or
I've been
just
married
traveling
100 years and just really just want to get away from people for an evening,
Absolutely.
Or you want to go and eat high-end Chinese food in Beverly Hills and not be disturbed.
Exactly.
And I think we had a conversation earlier today on our group chat, and it's sort of like I've had waiters and waitresses come up to me here in Sudbury, and I sit down and I eat at a table, and they're like, anybody else joining you? No. Oh, that's okay. What?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
no kidding. It is.
At the time I wasn't single, or even if I was, why would you say that?
Why would I need reassurance?
Why would I need reassurance? I walked my butt in here and sat down at your table, chose your restaurant, and what do you want me to do? It's okay. It's okay that you're here. It's okay you're alone. What?
Thank you for permission.
We'll let you.
We'll let you stay even though you're alone.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to highlight
Gotcha.
earlier, because it's sort of like,
It's like
it's
real.
ridiculous.
I know.
funny.
So, in conclusion, restaurant owners, managers, servers, if your restaurant does not have a solo dining program, meaning that you do not have any rules of engagement on how to handle solo diners, considering the trend is on the uptake for all of this solo dining, and there's more and more people who want to be able to eating out, you might be, if you change it and start creating a place that people will feel comfortable dining alone, you may have a whole new set of people coming to your establishment because they've been hiding at home or going to quick coffee shops because they felt like they weren't welcome at your place. So it's good to make some tips. So if you needed to write all that stuff down, you can just rewind and hit play again.
Especially on event days as well.
Yeah.
Overly marketed event days.
Overly marketed event days, yes.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of people that don't want to sit at home on, seasonal, Valentine's Day or Easter or Christmas if they don't have anybody, Mother's Day, Father's Day, whatever. I mean, why not have a sitting for people that aren't, a lot of restaurants have I know Valentine's Day is Valentine's Day, however, but what if there's single people that want to go out for dinner? Just happens to be February 14th.
Yeah. Love myself day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Rah, rah, rah. Every
Rah,
single
rah,
day. And I mean, I believe that.
Yeah.
I think it's important.
It should be. Okay, so in closing, a couple of things. We're going to be eating a lot in the next 2 Saturdays. So while you're listening to this, Cynthia's going to be setting up, and the rest of us are going to join her at Sudbury's very own crazy-ass Saturday thing that we do. Is called Porchetta Bingo.
Woo!
Okay, so I just figured it was fitting for this episode because not just because it is a Sudbury thing, and people who aren't from Sudbury are always sort of stunned to hear about it, but then I've taken people from out of town, and they're all wanting to set it up in their own
Everyone
towns or
loves
cities.
the idea of it. I share it at my day job,
Correct.
and they're all like, "Oh
So-
my god, that's a thing!"
So we are going to attend 2 different similar food-based charity events over the next 2 weeks, and we're going to string together to have an episode later in March that's going to basically be how to set up one of these kind of things in your own hometown, the benefits of it from our charity's perspective as well as those who are attending, and then maybe some other different ideas that you can be doing that's very similar, that doesn't cost a lot of money, that you can also raise money for your own nonprofit by using as food as a draw. So yes, we actually play bingo for meat. It's a thing here.
Love it.
Love it. So we're doing Porchetta Bingo. So if you're in the Sudbury area, we will be at the Plaza Hotel in Middle Lake. Basically, when you're listening to this, Saturday
Today.
afternoon. So it is officially today from 2:30. Is it 2:30 to 5?
2:30 to 5.
2:30 to 5. It's $20 to play for the afternoon. You buy a beer and hope to God that you can win yourself a porchetta sandwich or even get meat to take home. Do they have meat to take home?
Yeah.
So if you didn't want to eat it there, you can take it home. But it's kind of fun. Do they do hot sandwiches there too?
Yeah, so we basically you win like a package of hot meat, and there's a bag. I'm so excited! I love it so much. There's a box with like buns and mustard and cutlery and stuff. But if you're hardcore like my husband and I, you just take your meat with a fork and go to town.
Awesome. And then the following week, because I'm volunteering to help out the Sunshine Foundation of Canada's local event fundraiser coming up this in April, we are having a pre-party event to raise money for the foundation out at Cousin Vinny's in Hanmer on March the 10th. So it's going to be similar, but it's going to be a wingo bingo. So yes, that's right. Same format, but instead of porchetta, you get chicken wings. So all the people who are not big porchetta fans, but they can eat a pound of wings with their eyes closed, like in a blink of an eye, this is your event. So tickets for that one are $28, I believe. I do have access to them, or if you contact Cousin Vinny's directly, I'm sure they can set you up. But I'll have all the details on the Facebook page. So this way you can come out and join us, because we're going to tape portions of it live, so you can come and say hi to us, have a beer with us, have some porchetta, have some wings. Make sure you listen to that's going to be about 3 episodes from now. So that'll be I believe is a Saturday. No, it's the weekend before. Anyways, don't quote me on that because I don't have the calendar in front of me. So we have the 3rd, the 10th, the 17th. It's the 17th. It's the 17th.
Is it the 17th?
Yes, the 17th I'll be airing that episode, so we won't have to tape another one. We'll just string together that one because the week after I'm in Santa Monica. So I will be broadcasting live from there. I'll be taping live from there. And the cool thing is that I just found out there's a big Latin food fest happening at Santa Monica Beach on that weekend. So I'm going to go on the Friday. I think there's a lot of like Spanish and Mexican like high-end chefs that are going to be there. But it's like $29 for the day. I am so in. So I'm doing that for the day. And then I'm going to go and see my favorite restaurant in Beverly Hills area, which is the Bazaar by Jose Andres. For Spanish tapas, that'll be my last night. And Alex and Brie are coming with us this time, but I went there with Norm last time. We had a blast. He does have a new restaurant open right next door in the SLS Beverly Hills, but it's only 10 seats. 20-course tasting menu, and I didn't want to put the kids through that. I know that's my next trip, but I'm going back to the Bazaar because I just love their tapas. I love the atmosphere and the vibe, and considering everything that Jose Andres has done for other people over the last year or so, the least we can do is spend our money to support him and his business because all he does is give back. So that's my way of saying thank you for what he's done for Puerto Rico. Is I'm going to go and eat at his restaurant. But anyway, so that'll be that 23rd, 24th. So the weekend after that, before that is when I'll air the Food for Money show.
Food bingo.
So next week, we're talking meal kits. So I've never done this. So Cynthia, you have.
Yeah.
Have you done one of those meal kits
but
yet?
I'm familiar with them.
And I was thinking I'm going to ask around. I have a couple other friends that have. Which one are you?
I'm doing Chef's Plate. I'll bring a bag actually when I come.
Yeah, so you're doing Chef's Plate. I was going to talk to someone who's doing HelloFresh. So I want to get 2 or 3. And so I might bring some guest people in here. Yeah. It's going to be really hard. Can you please bring your chef kit to show us and come and drink with us? We'll see if we can get people to come in. So I thought that will be fun. We'll do that next Friday. We'll sort of chat about the ins and outs of how those chef kits work, and we'll kind of get some real live feedback from people who are using them about what's good and what's not about them, just so that you can make a decision on if it's right for you and your family. Sound good?
Yeah.
Any other last minute news, everybody?
No.
Nope. Must be. We're getting low on port. And I'm going to need to get more meds. So until next week, thanks for joining us on Flying for Flavor. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and our YouTube channel. And of course, we can always find us on Apple Podcasts, on Stitcher Radio, and of course, Spotify. And as always, flyingforflavor.ca. See you next week.
Cheers.
See ya.